Hey guys, PB here from the Home Automation Project. Welcome to my video. Have you heard about something called a NUC or a mini PC in the world of Home Assistant? And you're wondering what the fuss is all about? Are you new to the world of Home Assistant and you're looking for the various installation options and your head is spinning? Or do you have Home Assistant running for some time now on your Raspberry Pi and it's starting to show its age and you're getting limited in terms of speed, hard disk space, etc.? If so, then do watch this multi-part series of videos that I'm bringing to you in my channel. In this multi-part series of videos, I'm going to take you on a step-by-step journey of how you can up your game in the world of Home Assistant as far as hardware is concerned, as well as the ease of managing the software. I'm going to do this in a step-by-step manner in such a way that you don't get overwhelmed with everything in the first go and you gradually ease into this ecosystem. So hopefully this video series should be something which should give some value to people who are at any stage in their home automation journey using Home Assistant. The aim of this series is to help you set up the ultimate platform for a home automation, a home assistant, which can sustain you for many years in the future, and you can keep growing your network without having to lose your sleep in the night. This video is going to be the first one in that series. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can install Home Assistant on Intel NUC and how do you prepare the hardware to host your Home Assistant. The Intel NUC looks like something like this. So this is fairly small form factor, but it is pretty powerful for the size. So for example, it has 16 GB DDR5 RAM, 500 GB NVMe SSD, 4-core CPU, and it has got all the ports that are required to run additional hardware for Home Assistant, such as Zigbee dongles, Z-Wave dongle, Matter, or if you want to use USB Coral for your Frigate, it can support all of those in one single hardware. So without further ado, let's get started with the first video of the series. Okay, so this is the Intel NUC hardware that I have. It's manufactured by a company called Beeline. It is pretty popular company, and the version that I have here is the EQ version. Yeah, that's the version. It's called the EQ version. It is I'll leave the link in the description to this exact piece. I bought it from Amazon, and it's a pretty powerful piece of hardware. As you can see, it has all the required ports and then some more. So you've got the two LANs which supports gigabit LAN, and you have the two HDMI. You've got a DC input, you've got the USB, as well as you have got two USB in the front. So if you want to attach, let's say, Zigbee or Z-Wave dongle, you can do that. It has I believe it also has auto power on, which is probably important requirement if you have a Home Assistant running and let's say your power shutdown happens. When the power comes back on, you would want the machine to boot on its own, but I need to test that feature out, so I'll confirm to you guys maybe in the comments later that if that works. So this does come with an option to extend the hard disk space by installing a SSD. So I bought this Crucial SSD from Amazon. Let's try and focus. Yeah, so I have this Crucial. This is a 1 TB SSD. This does support up to 2 TB, but I'm comfortable with 1 TB. I think 2 TB will be a overkill. This also comes with DDR5 RAM and NVMe SSD inside. I think it's 500 GB. I'll leave the specs in the description, and I think it's pretty powerful for the purposes that I have. I'm planning to share the hardware. The Home Assistant OS needs around 32 GB of disk space, and I think the rest it will be comfortably I can use for Frigate. Let's say even if I want to store the clips from Frigate, which I wouldn't be doing because I'll be using Frigate mostly for AI detection of footages, not for storing. I have a different setup for storing 24/7 footage storage, which runs on a Blue Iris on a Windows PC. But I'm going to use this more for always on scanning of the images and for face detection, etc. Using Frigate. So but having that extra disk space, you never know, I might want to run a Plex server or something later on this one. I'll have to test the speeds. I believe this is pretty fast, going to be pretty fast as well, so should be good enough, but depending on my speed tests, I might take a call on that. So the first thing we are going to do is I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to install the hard disk or the SSD in this one. And unfortunately you can't take out the NVMe SSD on this one. Is I believe it's fused inside. I think you may be able to take it out if you unscrew a little bit of the internals, but I don't need to do that. I'm going to use a USB based setup, the one which is recommended on the Home Assistant install page. But if you buy a different NUC, you might be able to take the NVMe SSD out of it easily, and if you can do that, then you can put it on an enclosure and you can install the Home Assistant OS directly on the SSD, and then you can put it back inside. That would be an easier way. The USB method that I'm going to use will require us to install an image of Ubuntu, and then from Ubuntu we'll need to install Home Assistant OS. So definitely that's one extra step. Okay, so let's go ahead and first open this up and install the SSD, and then we will go to step 2, which is installing Home Assistant OS software using USB disk image. Okay, so now we are back on the Home Assistant installation page, and we are going to, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to first install the Home Assistant OS on the NUC, and once we have done that, I'm going to then switch to the final installation, which is the supervised installation using Proxmox. So to do the normal OS installation on a NUC, you go to this option called generic 8664. You'll see all the instructions as mentioned here. So you need to go to the BIOS of the Intel NUC, and it will be generally, you can find the manual for the specific NUC you're using, how to enter into the BIOS and update. One thing you need to do is set up the UEFI boot mode, and you have to disable the secure boot option as it mentions here, and probably you might also need to change the boot order. I'm not too sure, we'll see how it goes. You have to press the F2 key, or I think in my case of my NUC it might be F7. Let me check. Yeah, it says F7 to enter the boot menu option, so yeah, I'll be using F7 key, and I'll do this. And next up thing that we need to do is we need to ready a USB drive or a USB stick to install the Home Assistant OS. It's a two-step process. First, if you see here, there are two methods mentioned here: install OS via Ubuntu. This is the method we are going to use. I believe there's another method, install directly from a boot medium. This is a method you can use if you have NVMe SSD on the NUC, which you can manually take out and install. You can go with this method too. I can't do it for my NUC, so I'll stick to method 1. For this method, you need to write an image of Ubuntu, which is live operating drive, on the USB flash drive, and for this you need to go to Ubuntu download page, and you can click on this download option. One thing is that this image is almost 6 GB in size, so it would be good if you have at least more than 6 GB sized USB stick. The one I'm using, I have 8 GB on it, so I'll be using that. And you can use this software called Balena Etcher. You can download this and use this to install your ISO image into the USB stick. I'm going to do it now. So let me first plug in my USB stick. Okay, so now I've plugged in my USB, and I have also downloaded the Ubuntu disk image onto my local desktop. So option to select here is flash from file, and I have this ISO image, which is your Ubuntu desktop ISO image. Next, I'm going to select the target. This is my 8 GB USB stick. Be very careful on this step, because whatever you're going to do, it is going to overwrite or erase this USB stick entirely. So you need to be careful while selecting this. Double confirm that that's the right media, and then you can say flash. Okay, so it's starting up, and yeah, let's wait for the flashing to finish. Okay, so the installation has now completed. I'm going to close the screen, then I will take out the USB drive and plug it into NUC. But before I do that, I'll need to set up the BIOS options as we saw in that installation document. So let me switch over to that screen, and I'll show you the next steps. One thing I forgot to mention is that you need to have a USB keyboard and a mouse which you can connect to the NUC, so that you can do the boot menu setup using the keyboard and later on do the installation using the mouse. So do keep those handy for the next steps. Let's boot on NUC. I haven't inserted the USB into it yet because I want to update the boot options. So you can see it's getting booted up. Let's allow it to boot up fully once, and then I'm going to reboot it and set up the boot options. It comes with the default installation of Windows OS on it, so I'm going to let it boot up to the Windows just to check that it is working fine, and hard disk setup that we did not mess up with any of the hardware on it. This is not a necessary step, it's just peace of mind in case something doesn't work correctly. I would advise that you use Ethernet option. So as soon as we boot up from the USB, where we are going to have to download and install the OS image of Home Assistant from internet, so your NUC needs to be connected to internet during the setup process. Now I'm going to reboot the NUC, and I'm going to press F7 when when the boot happens to be able to enter the BIOS. Let's try. Okay, yeah, I want to enter setup. Right, I think UEFI is already enabled for most modern devices nowadays. UEFI will be already enabled. Okay, so what I'm going to change here is the boot option. Let's try plus DVD SD USB device. Security, secure boot, secure boot is disabled. Yeah, so I think the options are pretty fine. We can do save and exit. So one pro tip for you guys, if you want to set up auto power on your NUC, so I found the option on my NUC which is from Beeline. And the option is to you need to go into the boot menu and go to chipset, then enter the IO configuration. By default you see the state after G3, which is basically the state after power failure. Selected for S5, you have to switch it to S0 state, and then you can save and exit the configuration. This should mean that whenever there is a power failure and the power comes back on, your NUC should auto power up, auto boot up. This is supported by my specific model of Beeline, which is AQ12. You do need to check your manufacturing specs if this is supported or not, but it's pretty handy if you're running Home Assistant from NUC, and if your power goes down, you would really want it to come back up on its own. And before I do that, I'm going to plug in the USB drive so that when it exits and boots, it's going to boot from the USB drive. I'm in my USB drive. I'm going to hit save and exit. Save configuration, yes. Fingers crossed. Should boot up from the USB and we should see the Ubuntu screen now. Yeah. Okay, so to try and install Ubuntu. Yep, try and install. Okay, we do have the Ubuntu logo now. So yeah, that looks like it's working. Now it's just loading the initial bits of Ubuntu at the moment. So okay, yeah, so here's the option, install or try. We need to use the try Ubuntu option. The only thing I want to do here is I will search for Home Assistant install page. Yeah, let's maximize the size of this and go to Home Assistant installation page, go to generic 8664 and we come down here and we download the image. Okay, so the download of the image is completed. Now following the rest of the steps, we are going to go to show apps, then we are going to select the application called disks. It must be in the utilities. So what does it have? Yeah, here it is. So let's open this now. Yeah, let's I'm going to install it onto my the NVMe SSD here. So it has 512 GB, which is more than ample for doing this. So let's go here, click on restore disk image, then select the downloaded OS image. Yeah, start restoring, restore, indicate. Okay, and okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to power it off completely. I'm going to remove the USB drive and then I'm going to restart it physically. So let's do that. Now I have booted it up again, and as you can see, so this is your default Home Assistant screen, which OS screen that comes up, and looks like the installation has been successful. Yeah, it's waiting for supervisor to start up, and the important thing to note here is the IP address, and that's the one you will need to connect to launch the instance of the Home Assistant. We are going to connect to the Home Assistant through the browser from my other machine. We still need to keep the NUC on the network, and if you want, you can at this point of time go ahead and assign this, make this IP address static. Okay, so now I'm on to this page of the landing page of the new Home Assistant instance we just installed. So hooray, works fine. So instead of create my smart home, the option that we are going to use is this restore from backup, and I'm assuming you have already created a full backup of your previous Home Assistant instance and downloaded it into a file, which you can then put into a USB and then restore it from here. To back up your previous installation, you can simply go to settings and system, and then from here you can click on backups. So to download the backup, you can just click on the backup and then you can click on the download backup option here. So let's just do that and click on allow. I'm not going to do this step now because I will do this step in a subsequent setup, but if you use this, it's a pretty simple option. You can try it out and it should work pretty fine. So once you do that, you will see that the entire all your Home Assistant setup, which was done in your previous installation, maybe it's a Raspberry Pi like me, then it should also show up. Two things: if you have Z-Wave devices connected to Home Assistant, you need to first exclude them and manually include them in the new setup. Zigbee, you don't need to do that. You can just simply plug in the Zigbee, but into the new device, it should recognize it and you should be able to use it as it is. You will probably need to add those devices or rename those devices a little bit, but they should work as long as you have the same Zigbee stick. So there you go. That's your simplest, easiest installation. Now we have an upgraded hardware. Unfortunately, as you saw when we booted up into that device, it is completely taken over by Home Assistant as operating system, so it gave you the screen of the Home Assistant. So that will be all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do not forget to subscribe or like the video. Is there anything else that you would be interested in as part of this series? If so, do put your comment in the comment section, and I will try and cover that in one of the subsequent videos. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can move the installation into a Proxmox VM on the same piece of hardware, and I'm going to migrate it into that setup. Along with that, in the subsequent videos, I'm going to cover how you can install Frigate as its own container on the same hardware and then integrate it with Home Assistant. I'm going to use USB Coral as a hardware and increase the performance of Frigate. Then I'm going to demonstrate how you can set up face detection and plate recognition in Frigate. And finally, I'm going to show you some fancy projects, such as how you can run your local AI in Home Assistant. All of this I'm going to gradually build up on this same piece of hardware, which is your Intel NUC, and that should give you the full benefit of having a higher spec hardware and having this Proxmox layer to containerize or virtualize each of these setups, while having the ability to make them seamlessly talk to each other as well. So do stick around for more such videos and check my channel from time to time as I go through this series. I will see you in the next video of the series. Till then, stay safe and stay connected.